Patch 10.1 is here, but we still have some news to cover. A new Evoker Spec just got confirmed, a possible legendary for Evokers that Ian Hazzikostas himself hinted at, the new Dragon Riding mount, a possible 6th Dragon Riding mount, and much more. So let's get started so I can keep you guys all caught up. With patch 10.1 getting underway, Blizzard has released a post telling us about what we can expect in the next patch, patch 10.1.5, and it is a 3rd Evoker Spec and a new dungeon. The 3rd Evoker Spec is a damage dealing spec called Augmentation. This spec is a new damage dealer role with a twist. They use the essence of the black and bronze Dragonflights to amplify the abilities of nearby allies. The playstyle of this new spec involves empowering your allies with a variety of beneficial effects. Some can be cast directly on allies, while others are tied to using your damage dealing abilities effectively. Certain augmentation abilities can buff your whole party or specific members. You can see a test version of one of their damage dealing abilities here called Upheaval. Just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what some of their abilities might be like, one of them can increase nearby allies' main stat, which can also have that duration of the buff increased by your damage dealing abilities. Overall, I'm really glad to see this new spec, and I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, especially with how they'll balance it with Mythic Plus and raids when you only have 5 players in a Mythic Plus. But I think this playstyle will be really rewarding for some players, so I'm really glad to see that. If you guys want to hear more about how we knew this 3rd spec was probably going to end up coming to the game, then be sure to check out my other video in the top right now, and let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on this new spec and if you're going to give it a try. Now, onto this new mega dungeon, the Dawn of the Infinite. To give you guys an idea of the story behind this dungeon, it is based around the long-time enemies of the Bronze Dragonflight, the Infinite Dragonflight. They have worked towards their goal of turning Nozdormu into Murazon ever since Cataclysm. This will be an 8-boss mythic-only dungeon, which will take players across timelines to stop their foes. Iridikron will make an appearance in this dungeon as we work to protect Azeroth's timeline and put things right. So, some of you might notice the huge absence of legendaries this expansion, especially when you compare it to Shadowlands, but this might not be the case for long. In a recent interview with Mr. GM, Ian said that there isn't going to be a 3rd spec for Evoker in 10.1, which we were disappointed by until we got the news that we were getting it next patch. However, he did say that Evokers might have something to look forward to on Sarkareth, the final boss of Aberrus. Now, we might actually know what he's talking about here, because of some data mining and a leak that could have come from inside Blizzard itself. The TLDR is that some data mining found that there could be a secret Evoker legendary questline that could lead to them crafting their own class-exclusive legendary after killing Sarkareth. We aren't fully sure what it would cost to craft it, but we're sure it'll be quite expensive and time-consuming. This will be very reminiscent of the original legendaries that we all know and loved, like a Shadowmourne, Thunderfury, or Fangs of the Father. After the data mining, a photo has been spreading around. The only problem is that it does say that the item is soulbound, but the player in the photo wasn't an Evoker. This means that it's either fake, or it could have been leaked from a Blizzard employee either on purpose or by accident, we don't know. The item itself is a one-handed fist weapon called Nazur the Unbound Legacy with an item level of 457. If you have worked on the 10.1 campaign questline, you might actually remember that Sarkareth found the broken Oathbinder, which itself is also a fist weapon. This questline could have something to do with maybe fixing it, and it would make a lot of sense lore-wise for an Evoker to use the Oathbinder. As I said, the item level is 457, which is quite high, so that does make a lot of sense. The equip effect can actually buff other players' main stat and speed. This, obviously, as you can tell, reminds me a lot of the 3rd spec that Blizzard just announced, making this seem all the more believable. If you have decided to take an alt into the 10.1 content, you may have noticed that there's no manual campaign skip. This is because alts don't actually need to do the campaign, since you will already have everything unlocked for you regardless. You can still do the campaign to get gear, flight stones, and reputation, but it isn't something that's required for, let's say, the Spark of Shadowflame quest. Speaking of the Spark system, Blizzard has confirmed that there will be a catch-up system. If you skip the quest for a week, or maybe you're playing a new alt, then you will have a higher chance for bonus sparks to drop until you're all caught up. This can come from any form of content, which is always great to see. One of the most anticipated rewards coming from patch 10.1 was the new dragon riding mount, the Winding Slither Drake. With the new week allowing us to complete more of the campaign, we can now unlock the chapter Inherited Sin. If you do so, you can actually get this mount right now. You just need to keep working on your campaign until you reach the quest Worst of the Worst, which will reward you with your new mount. If you played back during the Burning Crusade, then I've got some good news for you. A 6th dragon riding mount from a pretty cool Dragonflight might be on the way. Mr. GM found a data mined item that is called the Grotto Netherwing Drake. This was labeled as a dragon riding mount. As you can see, the cost does say 999 Trader's Tender, but don't fear, this is usually just a placeholder for items that are the reward from completing the activity bar in your journal. Now, we don't have any visual of what this might look like, but here for reference is the original Netherwing Drake back from Burning Crusade. I'm very hyped about the possibility of this mount because I absolutely love the Netherwing aesthetic. Now on to some free rewards. The Twitch drops have started for World of Warcraft. Last week, players were able to get a toy that summoned a portal, and this week it's a free mount. Blizzard did somewhat of a mix-up when it came to which reward was given out last week, but it's all been fixed now. The mount reward is the Blazing Hippogriff, which is a trading card mount that used to sell for lots of real-life money, so be sure to get it before it's gone on May 16th. If you aren't totally sure how to get this mount, go to the description and there will be a link to all the info and the instructions on how to get this mount. Now, I know that lots of you who watch my videos aren't actively subscribed to WoW or haven't played Dragonflight yet. This isn't actually too bad of a time to give it a try, as there's a free trial and a sale going on right now. If you have an active WoW subscription without Dragonflight, you can play the Dragonflight leveling zones, including playing as an Evoker, until June 4th. But there's a caveat. You can't level past level 60. This is because once the trial ends, that character would be unplayable until you bought Dragonflight. The experience that you gain is still stored on your character though, so if you do buy Dragonflight, you'll receive all of that experience you've stored up. As for the sale, all versions of the game are 50% off here in Canada, which is a really good sale, so be sure to take advantage of this and get the game if you want to try it. And sadly, that is all the news I have for you guys. The news recently has been really exciting and eventful, so if you guys want to stay caught up on all the news, then be sure to subscribe. And if you want to learn how to get a free piece of gear, then be sure to check out my last video on screen now, or maybe you want to hear more about that third Evoker spec. Regardless, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good one.